Hey guys, how you doing? Just had a bit of spare time, so I just wanted to run through a couple of things on front squat today. So front squat and back squat, of course, are very similar, but it's just the bar where the bar is planted that makes that slight difference of where we find a lot of people coming forward, and also people have a lot of trouble with their front rack. So let me show you what I mean. So the one thing that I always talk about, and I kind of have a ritual when I set up for any sort of front squat or back squat. Now, anyone that knows me knows that my mobility is most certainly not my strong point. I have to work double hard at it, and it's probably the majority of the people that come into this gym. I'm in the gym all day, I'm working at it all day. Chances are a lot of you guys are working in an office. I'm working at it all day. It's the thing that no one enjoys doing, but it's one of the most important things to do. So let's just talk about a couple of ways how we can help you with the front squat. So what we commonly see, and there's a big thing, if you just come around here, Remy, there's a big common fault that we see when people come into the front squat, get themselves, it looks a little bit like this, especially guys, and then they're all rounded off, the knees are already bent, and then they're trying to get themselves into that front squat position. So there's so many issues that are coming in place that are so easy to tweak, but most importantly, is going to completely change the way that you do your squat. So this start from the front end up. First things that I want to talk about is your wrists, especially those of you that are very new to CrossFit. Just come around here from me, Ren. Those of you that are really new to CrossFit, your wrists are going to be smoked, all right? You're going to feel it a lot, especially in front squat. You're going to be like, how the hell am I supposed to be getting into these positions? So it takes a little while to open up. Now, here what you'll see is this is the carpal tunnel that runs through here, and this runs all the way up the arm. And the best way to loosen this up, in my opinion, and this is something that Gemma taught me and I've always stuck by it, is by turning the hands, so facing it towards you. You want to get your shoulders behind your wrists, and you want to try and close this gap onto the floor as much as possible. Then from there, what you want to do is you want to be pushing your other hand onto that wrist, lean back, and all you're going to do is literally rock in this position here. All right, so you can do this at home, you can do this on your desk, there's no reason why you can't do it anywhere. You can get into the both hands position and start to rock your way back and really start to open it up. Now here's the thing with mobility, you get so much time to do it in between all of our sets that we do. So rather than standing there like a spare prick at a party, the best thing to do is get yourself involved with how can I improve myself to get that next lift, right? Really be focusing on what can I do next to get myself into that better position. So really focus on trying to open up them wrists, really sitting back, really look at getting them shoulders. If you can sit back onto your own heels and keep your hand into that position, keep your wrist, keep pushing it down flat onto the floor, then it's going to open it all up and it's going to make a major difference to the way you do things. There's two other movements that we can do. The next one, again, is turning the wrist, try and straighten the arm, and then what I want you to try and focus on is try and get that index finger and push it into the pad of your hand. All right, I've had some of you guys do this, it's called a gorilla grip, all right, and it's really testing. I don't want you to put too much pressure here on the wrist. The idea is that literally you're locking the arm out and you're trying to get that index, as you can see, I'm quite far away from my pad there. I'm trying to get my index finger onto the pad of where my bottom of my thumb sits. The next thing that we can do is we can take the bands, and this is something you should be doing in the class, is taking the bands, getting yourself a nice stretch out. Now you've probably done this on your ankles before, exactly the same rules apply on your wrists. Get that band onto the wrist, and again, getting that nice stretch, so you're getting that pull from the band here, and it's opening up them wrists. Now the difference, hopefully, by the time of me just finishing doing these couple of seconds that I've just done, if you come back onto the bar here, you'll see the difference between the two wrists. Yeah, you do, right? Is there a difference here?
Yep.
Cool. All right, so you can see the difference between the two. That's literally me just spending a couple of minutes doing that. Okay, the next part is where people struggle to get the elbows up. Okay, so to get the elbow up into a nice front rack position. Now, this usually comes down to tight teres major and minor, which is coming here in the, into the cuffs, into the back. So there's a few good ways that we can open them up, and I'll go to setup in a minute, but there's a good few ways to open these up. So the first one is taking the band, and what we're always concentrating on doing is pulling our ribs down, okay, and we're trying to drive that thoracic. So essentially, the spine here, what I'm looking for you to do is try and straighten it. All right, so we're all rounded off. We sit out fucking desks all day, or we easily slump, or again, ladies have certain assets that pull them forward and so on and so forth. So what we're looking for, especially in that front rack position, is to have that bar sitting nicely here on the front rack. So what we're looking for is to try and straighten up. If anything, try and get a nice curve at the top of that back, so it's nice and straight. And we want to be pulling our ribs down as much as we possibly can. So a great option for you to do that is to get the belt elbow into the band, driving the band back, pulling the ribs down, get yourself into a nice solid position and just sit into that stretch. This is a passive stretch, so just let it come into play and start to open up here. All right, so again, just focusing, breathing in, get a little bit more tension if you need to. Use some of the stronger bands. Again, alternatively as well, we can take some of the bands into this position, get a grip, and that will allow us to extend slightly more, driving our elbow up, and again, creating an opening and opening up the lats as much as you possibly can and opening up that front back position. Alternatively, again, we can get exactly the same thing from one of the bands, go into the lower part of the rigging, drive the band up behind our shoulder, and really look to open that elbow up, open them elbows, open that front rack up, open that back up, pulling them ribs down, really driving that elbow nice and high. And then as I start to breathe out, become more passive. And then again, I focus on trying to get that elbow a little bit higher and get into that slightly stronger position. Now, as we go on to that, let's just talk about what actually happens when we get into the front squat. So here's the thing, don't rush your setup because the place you start is where you're going to finish. So it's really important when we first set up that it's key to get our elbows up as high as we can and get ourselves into a nice, strong front rack, right? So a lot of people will feel very comfortable coming close on their grip. It's a common cue for coaches, for us to give our members, is to get your elbows up. So for you to do that best, you feel like coming in closer is always going to be the answer, but it's not necessarily the truth. One of the problems with that is if you, again, have a rounded back, all right, or like a turtle shell on your back, by bringing your elbows in, all that's going to do is give you, as you go down into your squat, this motion where it pulls you forward and you start to arch over more and your back, and you can't drive your elbows up, can't get them anymore, you're fucking purple in the face. So here's what we look to do. In the front squat, it's not about being comfortable, but it's most certainly about trying to get that bar in the best position. So the rigging is definitely your friend here. So go a little bit wider than what you think. If you have a look at me here, I'm about a thumb and a knuckle out from the main grip. As I come in, this is my setup position. And then I drive my elbows up. As you can see, my voice has slightly changed where the bar comes in. And this here is my front rack position. So now my back's nice and straight. If you just come round from the back to me, Rem. If you have a look, I'm driving my elbows out, not my elbows necessarily up. And I should have a relatively decent straight back. Now, alternate to that, let me just show you the front rack. If I bring my arms in closer and I'll show you what I mean. My elbows will come up higher, so I'm coming inside here. I'm driving my elbows up, so look, my elbow position is pretty good. But if you come round and look at my back, it's really rounded off. So it's meaning when I come down into that bottom, it's going to want to pull me forward. All right? So again, what you're better doing is stand with a wider grip, and that's going to give us that nice flat back, which means we've got the strength of that upper back. Everyone says, oh, you're not holding the bar because you've got a weaker back, or like the top of your back's weaker. Top of your back is weaker than the lower of your back. That's just standard. That's just kind of how it works. So you need to work things into your advantage. So really by driving them elbows back and trying to squeeze them shoulder blades and going a little bit wider, your elbows may not be as high, but they're most certainly going to put the front rack of this bar into a stronger position. So when you go down into that squat, it means that you can hold the bar in a much more stable place. If you're sitting here and it's over your ankles, it's going to be a lot easier for you to push out of that squat than if it comes forward. And as I'm trying to come out, my bum's going to come up. I'm going to be trying to wrestle to get that bar into my midline stabilization, so into the easiest form of lifting. So from there, again, let's now talk about going into the squat itself. So when we're going into the squat, what we do on the back squat, and this is what's slightly different. With the back squat, what we do is we drive our hips back, so we punch back and then we sit into that squat position. I'm not looking to do that with the front squat. At the front squat, what I'm looking to do is just descend. So as I come in, I've now got my front rack sorted. I've got my fingers all the way around the bar. I'm now going to come in. I'm going to get myself nice and strong where my elbows are up. I've now got that nice front squat. Now, as you'll notice, my feet are 10 to 2. I'm not looking down on the floor because I've got no reason to. And I'm looking to go straight down. If I go into that back squat position where I drive them hips back, it's going to bring my bar forward. So I want to drive myself straight down, drag the knees out, and push up and stand at the top. Now, being a lot of us are quad dominant, we're going to favour the front squat. There's a couple of other things that I want you to look out for. Really make sure you're driving them knees out on the way down. And also make sure that you're pushing the smalls of them toes into the floor. We always bring up torque. It's one of the most common things that we bring up, and it's probably the key to lifting. If you create that torque, driving the knees out as you go down, and as you stand up, squeezing your bum at the top, should help you one hell of a time. So hopefully you get to see this before you come into class today. If not, you'll be able to log it all the way along. Thanks for listening.